Okay, welcome. We've got Luke from LW Digital and myself. We're talking about Google Display Ads. Going to go through targeted options, different what it is, audiences, budgets, and driving sales and leads. But we'll get there. So, Luke, do you want to kick off?
I do. It's good to be back, Adam. I said I missed last week, but I'm back this
Yeah,
week.
lightweight.
Uh, so good. Yeah, so display ads. So people sometimes refer to these as banner adverts. And what a Google display ad essentially is, it's an advert that appears on a website or on an app or a YouTube video or YouTube channel that catches someone's attention. And everyone's seen these before, whether you've been on a website shopping for clothes, is the example that I normally give, and you've added something to your cart, and then you go on a different website, and that product then appears and says, "Come back and buy me." That's exactly what a Google banner is. So, their purpose is to get in front of new customers or previous website visitors, and either do one of three things: create awareness, drive consideration, or drive sales and leads, which we'll get onto later on. So
Now,
they are a really effective method, yeah.
yeah, no, the banner ads, is it more video than more than sort of like static image? Is it better with video or is it
Yeah,
both?
completely up to depending on what your business is. You can do them in all different formats. You can do just like Facebook adverts, actually, still images, videos, animations, and you can also get them in Gmail now to appear like as an organic email to look like you've received an email from a company. So Google are working on those different styles of content. And again, we always go back to it every week, but you've just got to test what works well for your brand. I know Google, for example, with Google Nest, they were doing animation adverts where the Nest was there and then the text would slide in. So it just depends, really. But yeah, you can do all those things: text, image, and video.
Excellent. Okay. So,
And yeah, with just to touch on them as well, like we said on Facebook, obviously the Facebook ads, they come up and you pay for your budget and they reach a certain amount of people. Now with the Google display ads, they work in a similar way, but they work on that cost per click model still. So you'll still reach a certain amount of people and a certain amount of website users, but until they click on that banner ad and go to your website, you're not actually paying. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds with Facebook adverts and Google display ads. You get that reach and get in front of lots of different people, but then you also don't pay until somebody clicks. So
yeah,
it's a really interesting pricing point for them.
I think that's always in my head seems to be a better option for me. That does
Yeah,
the click option.
definitely more cost effective, definitely.
Yeah. Um, no, something I was going to say to you. On the video, I read. I think it was somewhere this week
Mm.
that now instead of going straight into a video, they're saying that you should really put a sort of like intro into it.
Yeah,
So to make it different, so about 3 seconds they're saying, and
that's
that
the whole.
3 seconds to catch them is do like an intro, something that is draws them in and catches them in.
Yeah, you hook that in with any advert, whether that's Facebook, Google, doesn't matter. Within 3 seconds, that's the time you've got to catch someone's attention. If you don't catch it, then the data suggests that not going to get them to convert or take the action that you want. So yeah, that 3 second hook, always consider that within all your adverts that you do. But they're really important, especially for Facebook and for these display ads that we're talking about today. Like you said, grabbing the attention within 3 seconds and making someone see that advert you're making.
Okay, excellent. And is there any? Do you know of? And because we've had this conversation. I've not tested YouTube ads at all, but
Yeah.
is there any one of the platform that stands out on these Google display ads as being a better
Yeah.
from a results point of view?
Well, so your traditional way, which we'll get onto retargeting, a lot of people retarget now through either display ads or YouTube. And YouTube is actually probably one we're going to touch on next week or something as a separate video itself. But in terms of placement, you can put display adverts onto YouTube. Now, again, it depends completely on what your product and service is. But traditionally, what you will see is these Google display adverts on websites. And they're the ones that, send those images of the products or services that you've been viewing directly to a website across thousands or millions, in fact, on Google's display network and get in front of people. And they're the ones that you're going to see more often. Now, whether or not they're better, again, like you said, probably end up testing both of those and seeing which works. But they're the ones that are more traditionally used that you will see. However, YouTube advertising is growing massively and is really something that most people, if they've got the budget, should be considering within their marketing budgets and campaigns and strategies.
Okay, good. I'm just looking over here because I can see that the Facebook Live is having trouble playing my preview on the live video, so I'm just hoping this is going live. It's saying it is, so I just hope that that it is. So yeah, anyway, carry on. So Luke.
Yeah, so we talked about the three things at the start. So like awareness, consideration, and driving action. And within your targeting options for display ads, there's really different types of audiences which you want to use for each of these objectives. Okay. Now, for awareness, if you're a business that wants to create awareness around a product, what you want to be doing is potentially targeting things called affinity audiences. Now, what these are is a predetermined audience of millions and millions of people that Google's put together. And they all share a passion for a certain area or topic. Okay. Now, this passion, Google have realized them as having this passion through their behavior online. So they've previously searched for, I don't know, let's say, for example, they're a fan of tennis. So they've searched for tennis clubs or they've searched for tennis equipment. And so these people then have an affinity for tennis or tennis equipment, tennis essentials, etc. So yeah, so if you're a marketer, you want to get your adverts in front of these people that have an affinity to this topic, obviously. And what Google will do is it will send your display ads only to people within this group across multiple millions of websites, etc. So when people in that group are browsing online, they'll see your adverts in front. So in terms of driving awareness in a cost-effective way, it's great if you've got a product or a service that you know people are going to be interested in, and you can target those people straight off the bat.
Actually, so that is, when you think around that is probably a damn sight better than the actual Facebook focusing in some respects, because let's say that I build up an audience that you put in as saying I don't know, an interest in entrepreneurship or a certain website or something like that.
Yeah.
This one is they've actually searched for that
that
product
topic
or service or that topic. So I can imagine that is quite focused there.
Yeah, it is, and you know, in terms of the depth as well. So to get to let's say that tennis enthusiast, if you're in a tennis enthusiast, what Google will do, it will segregate you into sports and fitness first. Then you'll be within the sports fans category, and then you might be either off that a football fan, a running fan, a tennis fan. So they've got those categories in it, and you can target people that are sports fans in general, or you can really get down into those affinity audiences and go on that lower level to the people specifically you want. But again, there's millions of people in this audience based on their data. So yeah, you got access to a large audience there for targeting.
So you really can attack into your niche, focus into your niche as well. Okay, excellent, good.
Building on that, then we're going into consideration now. So we just talked about awareness and consideration. Obviously, these are the people that are considering, obviously, what your service is and the alternatives around. And they're in the market. These audiences are called in-market audiences. They're in the market for your product and service. They know that they want it, but they're just trying to decide who's best. Now, what's different about affinity audiences and in-market, and what creates the consideration rather than the awareness here, is the fact that the in-market audience are actively searching for your product or service or whatever area or topic or passion they've got. Whereas the affinity audiences are the ones that have previously searched for it, but might not be actively doing it now. Okay, so these are the ones that Google knows, okay, we'll narrow it down even further. These guys are the ones that are in the market right now. They're looking for whatever product and service or industry you decide to target. So for example, we could go into office chairs. If you're a company that sells office chairs, these people are in the market for an office chair. Let's try and get in front of them, get our ads in there and make them consider us as an option. Yeah,
so there you are, really getting that further along that purchasing decision. Or closer to actually making that purchase.
And that's the point we talk about, isn't it? The sales funnel. We don't want to be guru, but it is exactly right. It's exactly how you've got to look at it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is exactly that. Now, does the I take it because it would be cost per click. So the cost per click will more likely be higher because they are a lot warmer to that purchase. Now, I don't know whether I'm right in saying that, but it might be.
It's completely up to what happened in that industry, because if you think about it, like we talked about search ads, if there's lots of people bidding on certain keywords or targeting certain keywords, like we've said before, the bid's going to go up. Yeah. So, whenever you're creating an in-market campaign, Google will give you the data, and, you can set your bid or whatever you like, just the same as you can at search ads, and it'll tell you the expected results from that. 15p a bid, 50p a bid, £1 a bid. It's going to tell you what sort of results you're going to get. But like you said, you'd imagine that these are more targeted audiences. So potentially, if your competitors are doing this, then your bids could be higher. But again, it's not always about that, is it? It's about the quality of the ads. If the ads are performing well, Google does reward good adverts by charging less per click. So it's completely subjective again.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. That's the thing, is you've got to make sure your bloody adverts are spot on, haven't you? Good content, good copy, and the lot. Okay.
Yeah, Adam, as well. This is a really interesting one. So you can actually create something called custom intent audiences as well. So your in-market audiences are ones that are predefined from Google. Okay, but your custom intent audiences, these are the ones that you can make yourself. Now, with these, you can select certain keywords. So, again, for office chairs, let's use that example, office chair company, or office chairs near me, or modern office chairs. Put these all into your custom intent audiences. You can also add URLs for certain websites. So you'll target the people that are in the market searching for these keywords, but you'll also be able to target people that are visiting other websites within this market. So you can really, do some clever things there with the URLs and target other websites or other website visitors potentially that are going to work, and get your adverts in front of them.
All right. So your competitors as such.
Didn't want to say it, but that is definitely an option that you can use. You can put the URLs of those websites in, and the people that are visiting them, potentially going to get shown your adverts too.
Which is what you want as well. There's nothing wrong with that, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. Good. That's
but that's just a thing that people it's quite new in terms of people's understanding of that, and it's just worth keeping in mind. And then moving on to the last thing, which we always talk about, that bottom of the funnel now, driving sales and leads. And this is just going to come down to two things really: retargeting, and then something called similar audiences. So retargeting, I think people by now, we're banging on about this with Facebook ads, all sorts of stuff. It's about retargeting those people that have been to your websites previously, overarchingly. And like we said, display ads are great for this. People who abandon the cart, don't purchase the product, you can then send them that product straight to, as soon as they leave your website, straight to the website they've moved on to. So really keeping that your business in their mind. But also you can create dynamic remarketing for this. So basically targeting people that visit certain pages of your website. Okay, so it doesn't have to necessarily be products, but if someone, like for myself, they visit a social media marketing page, or they visit a Google search marketing page, you can segment your display adverts to target people based on what pages they visited. So, we don't want people who view Google adverts to get social media adverts just because they visited my website, but you can be really specific about who gets to see what. So that's really, really important to make sure you get that right, making really effective as well.
Yeah, I must admit, I do like the retargeting. Since we've been talking about this, I mean, I do ads anyway, I do. But since we've been talking about this, I've been monitoring and watching a lot more of the retargeting. And what I've noticed is I've done it on purpose, is I've gone and looked at something.
Yeah.
And then monitored how many days it is before it's actually put back in front of me on a retargeting. Now, some it's almost immediately.
Yeah.
But some it's sort of like 2 days, and then I've had one that's been about 8 days, I think it was 7 or 8 days after.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating on some of this, but
yeah, and that could be something to do with the amount of budget that business is putting into it. There's also an option called frequency. Now, frequency is the amount of times that you want the same person to see your advert. I think I saw something the other day that it takes on average 7 times someone to see an ad for them to take an action that you want. So again, if you set your frequency to 7, after the 7th time, if they don't take that action, they never see your ad again, and you're not spending your budget on getting, potentially spending your budget on people that aren't going to convert. But that's really worth noting. Actually, that's a great point. And on the fact as well of remarketing, remember, it's not just about sales. We talk about it as well as educational. So whilst it's in the consideration phase, now we're talking about driving leads and sales. You could send a display ad with 1 or 2 sentences on, which is all you'd probably need in a display ad, with a piece of information or a USP which makes you stand out, and that could be the difference between someone converting or going to your competitors. So yeah, it's all about really educating people as well as trying to sell all the time. Because like I said, getting in front of them on a website, they read it in the evening when they're browsing on their whatever websites they want to be looking at, and they see that piece of information, that could be the difference.
Yeah, it is. And it's all around what people want to have from a transformation point of view. So articulate going from this pain to this gain.
Exactly.
And if you can articulate that in a USP or a value proposition, whatever you want to call it, if you can hook them, it's a good way of doing it, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last targeting option as well, it's something called a similar audience or similar audiences. Now, this is sort of like lookalike audiences on Facebook, taking information about your previous customers and using that to target people that are similar to them. And this is what Google does with display ads. And with similar audiences, essentially, it takes the guesswork, so Google say, out of finding new audiences by automatically finding new customers similar to your existing ones, okay? So this will be using machine learning from Google and looking at your remarketing lists, taking the data they know about your people on your remarketing list, your previous website visitors, and then finding new people online to get in front of who we know, based on machine learning, AI, and all the data that Google collects, are similar to these people. And if you think about it, that's a really logical thing to do. If you've got an audience that's working really well, or you're getting a lot of people on your website that are converting well, why not send those display ads to people similar to them? Because the chances are they're probably going to have similar interests and take similar actions to them.
Now, on this, because I'm just thinking something that's popping into my head there. Do you have to have Google Analytics set up?
Yeah,
absolutely
vital. If you've not got Google Analytics set up, get that set up as soon as possible. Only reason I say it is there is, with display ads, you have to have a certain amount of visitors within your remarketing list to be able to use these features. So while these are great, if you try and set this up without having Google Analytics involved, you're not going to be able to create those lists because you're not tracking who's coming to your website. Yeah. And then you're not going to be able to send these display ads to those lists. So a great point, actually. Make sure you've got your Google Analytics set up. You don't have to have the remarketing list set up, but as long as you've got Google Analytics on your website, someone can go in, set those lists up for you, and then start those display ads.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it on a previous as we've gone through this series on Google. I'm sure we did.
Anyone using Google, make sure you've got your website Google Analytics set up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. So
those, Adam, as well. Sorry to jump in, but
no.
People just want to make sure that people understand as well. These sound great, these similar audiences, but they are slightly broader than what they sound. So, Google's not going to be able to pinpoint every single data point of one person on the list or everyone on the list and find people exactly like them. They'll take a number of different factors and send a list out to people similar, but it's not going to be identical, So just in mind, it sounds really great, but just bear that in mind that the people aren't going to be identical, so they're not going to act exactly the same. But it is a great feature, all the less, if you get it right.
Excellent. Good. So we're on to budgets.
Budgets.
Placements, isn't it?
Yeah. So just the placements, all it is this is essentially where you can show these display ads. So like we said on Facebook last week, you've got the feed, you've got stories, you've got Messenger. Google, it's about across their Google display network. And now what this is multiple, they're called properties. So you've got websites, apps, and YouTube channels and YouTube videos, which are all on Google's platforms. And you can essentially send your adverts out to these different platforms. So it's great. So for example, with websites, you could select 100 websites for your business. If you have a furniture business, let's say, you could select loads of different websites within Google's display network that are relevant to your products, so your furniture products, and get your ads appearing only on these websites. Because you think about it, you don't want it appearing on, let's say, furniture websites for football fans' website. It's just not relevant at all. They're not going to click. It's a complete waste of time. So you can select these placements specifically and really target where you want your ads to appear as well as who you want them to appear to.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say. Because on the retargeting of the websites, I did note it even down to apps now, isn't it? I was on Sky News and I noticed that something that on the app on Android on my tablet. Yeah, and I know something that I was looking at earlier was in the banner of the news article.
Yeah. So with that, I'm guessing they're on the Android, so Google Play Store. Google therefore have got those the ability actually to advertise on those apps, and they, like I said, that app will now be within the Google Display Network, and that is one of the placements that you can target. So you've got really far reaching, and like I said, you can be really specific with these if you've got a clear in mind of where you want your adverts to appear. Let your marketing agency know, or if you're doing it yourself, have a little search and research about these placements, and really target them. Another thing that's, like you said, you've got websites and apps, but YouTube channels and YouTube videos. If you've got a technology company, for example, and there's a group of YouTubers who review certain products or regularly into that technological space, and you could start targeting those channels, the chances are their audience are the exact audience that you want to be targeting. So if you've got any of those thoughts in mind as well, Really, really great. And you know, you don't have to specifically target. You can just send it out to these affinity audiences or in-market audience that we talked about, and not select your placements and start broad, and then removing placements that are not great. That is something you can do. Start excluding rather than including. Or you can go really specific off the bat and say, right, I just want my ads to appear here. Really specific about who I want to see and where they want to see them, and start from there. But I'd say 50 to 100 placements minimum if you're going to start being specific, because you want to make sure that your ads are reaching the right amount of people on the right amount.
I'd really get creative with this as well. So, you know, like the apps that you're using.
Yeah.
Because if you're using those sort of apps, it's more than likely your potential audience or your potential customers.
Exactly.
Customer avatars are going to be using the same apps. So, yeah, get really, really creative on it, on that placements. Excellent. Good.
And then the last thing we just touched on is budget. Again, similar to what we talked about with Google search ads, actually, in the sense that it is a cost per click way of doing things, way of doing digital marketing. Now, obviously, there's multiple different bidding strategies within that. You know, cost per click is a very broad umbrella, but you've got things like your manual cost per click where you set the bids yourself. There's all the way down to cost per acquisition, where when you've got enough data, Google can start getting you leads and conversions for a set amount or an optimal amount of budget. But initially, like I said, I normally start a manual cost per click, work it out yourself, have that control initially and see how well it's doing. And once you start getting data and conversions, then go and trust Google to do it. But again, it works exactly the same. You set your monthly budget before you start your campaign, and then break that down to a daily level just by dividing it by the average number of days in a month, around 30, 31. And just ensure that you're happy to spend that money and you know your business can afford that amount of money to get out there, particularly for awareness campaigns that might not drive as much conversions as you want, or how much you want to spend on getting a couple of conversions within an action campaign. But yeah, make sure you know what your overall budget is and then your daily limits as well.
Yeah, excellent. And as always, we always say test the hell out of everything, but control it. Make sure you only change one thing at a time so you can see it.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, good. Is that it? Anything else?
No, I didn't know if you had any questions off the bat. I think it's all for me.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I'm hoping it has gone live. It's saying it's live, but I can't see the preview, so I'm hoping it's there.
Let's hope.
But we'll see. Great, thank you very much. Another 5:30 live with myself and Luke. We will do another one, probably the last one before Christmas, I would say, wouldn't it? Next week, and then have a break. And YouTube, you're picking.
I think so. We'll go for that. Educate people on YouTube next week.
Okay, excellent. Thanks very much, Luke.